On October 16, 2022, a quiet afternoon at the suburban city of Lai, Washington, began like any other for 42-year-old Young Sook. After attending church with her two children, a 20-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son, Young Sook drove home, expecting a routine day. However, the sight of her estranged husband Chae Kyong An's car parked in the driveway set the stage for an unthinkable turn of events. Although they were in the process of divorce, it was not unusual for Chae Kyong An, a 53-year-old former intelligence officer, to stop by the house on weekends to do laundry and spend time with their children. But on this day, he wasn't just there for chores. Young Sook, having endured years of marital discord and escalating tension, felt uneasy but tried to remain composed. Little did she know, this ordinary afternoon would spiral into a nightmare that would test her strength and resilience to the limits. The years of emotional strain and unresolved anger between Young Sook and Chae Kyong An erupted during a tense confrontation that afternoon. As their children were sent out to the supermarket, the estranged couple finally faced each other to discuss the divorce. The conversation started calmly but quickly escalated into a heated argument about property division. Chae Kyong An, visibly agitated, clenched his fists and raised his voice, declaring, "Even if I die, I'll never give you a cent of alimony." His words struck like a blow, but Young Sook, accustomed to his temper, refused to back down. She demanded that he leave the house immediately, hoping to avoid further conflict. Unbeknownst to her, this was the moment when Chae Kyong An's simmering rage reached its breaking point. In his mind, she wasn't just his wife anymore. She was an adversary standing in the way of what he believed was his. As Young Sook turned to go upstairs, exhausted from the argument, she hoped for some solitude, but her husband had other plans. Unbeknownst to her, he silently followed her up the stairs, his eyes darkened with fury. In a swift, calculated move, he pounced on her, pinning her down with brute force. Grabbing rolls of duct tape he had prepared earlier, he tightly bound her wrists and ankles, then wrapped her mouth and eyes to silence her screams. Young Sook was paralyzed with fear. Her mind raced as she realized this was not just an outburst of anger, it was something far more sinister. In the silence of the room, she could hear her own panicked breaths, muffled by the tape. Chae Kyong An stood over her, his face devoid of any emotion. Without a word, he walked out, leaving her immobilized, frightened, and utterly alone. Alone in the dimly lit room, Young Sook felt her heart pounding against her chest. Her hands and feet were tightly bound, her mouth sealed, and her vision obscured. Fear coursed through her veins as she fought to stay calm. Amidst her panic, a flicker of hope sparked. Her Apple Watch was still on her wrist. She struggled against the restraints, painfully twisting her wrist until she could activate the emergency SOS feature. Unable to speak, she made a call to 911, the sounds of muffled grunts her only means of communication. Simultaneously, she sent emergency alerts to her eldest daughter and a close friend, hoping someone would understand her cryptic message. Her heart raced as she heard faint sounds of footsteps returning. She knew time was running out. Would her desperate calls for help reach anyone before it was too late? The door creaked open, and Young Sook's heart sank. Chae Kyong An entered, his eyes scanning the room with suspicion. His gaze fell on her wrist. The faint glow of the Apple Watch betrayed her secret. With a burst of rage, he tore the watch off her arm and smashed it onto the ground. Picking up a hammer, he struck it repeatedly until it was beyond repair. His fury turned physical as he struck her wrist, ensuring she couldn't use it again. "You thought you could outsmart me?" he hissed. Young Sook bit back tears, her body trembling with fear and pain. The brief glimmer of hope she had held on to was crushed under the weight of Chae Kyong An's violence. He lifted her like a rag doll, dragged her out of the house, and shoved her into the trunk of his car. The car roared to life as Chae Kyong An drove recklessly, heading towards the outskirts of the city. Inside the trunk, Young Sook lay immobilized, her mind racing through every possible escape plan. She could feel the sharp pain from her wrists and chest, but forced herself to remain conscious. The hum of the engine and the vibrations of the road were her only companions. She tried to scream, but the tape muffled every sound. Tears streamed down her face as she prayed silently, hoping that someone would track her emergency calls or notice her absence. After what felt like an eternity, the car came to a halt. The air around her grew cold, and the eerie silence was broken only by the sound of Chae Kyong An opening the trunk. She braced herself, knowing the true nightmare was about to begin. The icy night air hit Dong Sook's skin as Chae Kyong An dragged her from the trunk. Her body, already weakened from injuries and drugs, could barely resist as he hauled her into the dense forest. Each step was accompanied by the crunch of dry leaves underfoot, and the towering trees seemed to close in, amplifying her terror. Chae Kyong An carried a shovel in one hand and gripped her arm tightly with the other. The sinister purpose of his actions became evident when he reached a small clearing and threw her to the ground. Under the dim light of the moon, Dong Sook saw him start digging. The rhythmic scraping of the shovel against the dirt was deafening, each stroke a grim reminder of her impending fate. She closed her eyes, her mind racing. Was this how her life would end? Could anyone save her now? As Chae Kyong An dug, Dong Sook lay motionless, her chest heaving with shallow breaths. The dirt pile grew taller, and with each passing moment, her hope dwindled. Chae Kyong An worked methodically, his anger manifesting in each strike of the shovel. Finally, the hole was complete. Chae Kyong An looked at his handiwork, wiping sweat from his brow. Without a word, he turned to Dong Sook. Grabbing her with the same merciless grip as before, he threw her into the shallow grave, her body landing with a thud against the cold earth. The sky above seemed impossibly dark as the first shovelful of dirt hit her. She tried to scream, but the tape muffled every sound. Tears mixed with the soil as she felt the weight of each layer pressing against her body, making it harder to breathe. Chae Kyong An pressed the dirt down with his feet, ensuring that Dong Sook was completely immobilized. To guarantee her demise, he placed a large log over the grave, sealing her fate. Satisfied, he stood there for a moment, watching his work in silence. He turned and walked back to his car, the sound of his footsteps fading into the distance. Dong Sook, buried under layers of soil, fought against the crushing weight of the earth. Her lungs screamed for air, her chest aching with every shallow breath. Somehow, through the fog of fear and pain, her mind clung to one thought: survival. She couldn't die here, not like this. Despite the overwhelming odds, she began to plan her escape, determined to fight back even from the brink of death. Buried alive and paralyzed by fear, Dong Sook's breaths grew shallow as the weight of the earth pressed down on her chest. Her arms and legs, still bound tightly, throbbed in pain. Yet amidst the suffocating darkness, a small spark ignited within her, a will to live. She carefully tilted her head to prevent the soil from clogging her nostrils. Moving even slightly sent waves of pain through her body, but she knew she couldn't stop. Slowly, she began twisting her wrists against the duct tape. Each movement burned her skin, but inch by inch, she loosened the restraints. Her fingers, finally free, clawed desperately at the soil. The damp earth clung to her nails as she pushed upwards, her heart pounding with both fear and determination. Every second felt like an eternity, but she refused to give up. As Dong Sook clawed at the soil, the log above her shifted slightly. With every ounce of strength left in her battered body, she pushed harder, creating a small pocket of air around her face. Her lungs greedily sucked in the thin, cold oxygen. The earth was heavy, and her progress was slow, but her mind refused to accept defeat. Inch by inch, she dug her way upwards. Her heart raced as she finally felt her fingertips break through to the surface. Fresh air hit her skin, and for the first time in hours, she felt a glimmer of hope. She pushed her head through the soil, her face streaked with dirt and tears. In the distance, she spotted Chae Kyong An's car parked under the dim glow of the moonlight. Fear surged through her again. She wasn't safe yet. Dong Sook knew she had to move quickly and silently. Her chest ached with every breath, and her legs trembled as she crawled out of the shallow grave. Glancing at Chae Kyong An's car, she noticed the faint glow of its interior light. Was he still nearby? She suppressed the urge to cry out, biting her lip until it bled. Slowly, she crept away from the grave, her body shaking with exhaustion and pain. The forest was eerily quiet, the rustling of leaves under her hands the only sound. After what felt like an eternity, she finally rose to her feet, wobbling as she leaned against a tree for support. Every step away from the grave felt like a victory, but she knew the night wasn't over. She needed to find help, and fast. Dong Sook's battered body moved instinctively as she stumbled through the dark forest. Each step sent sharp pains coursing through her chest, but her determination outweighed the agony. She scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of life. After what felt like an eternity, her eyes caught a faint glow in the distance. A house. Her heart leapt with renewed hope. She quickened her pace, her feet slipping on the uneven terrain. She prayed silently, "Please, let someone be there." When she reached the porch, she banged on the door with all her might. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Help me, please." Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing a startled homeowner. They immediately ushered her inside, alarmed by her disheveled and injured state. Once inside, Young Sook collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. Between sobs, she recounted her horrifying ordeal to the homeowner. Her voice trembled as she described being buried alive by her husband and her miraculous escape. The homeowner wasted no time and called 911, providing the police with all the information they could gather. Young Sook's dirt-covered hands clutched at the homeowners as she pleaded, "Please stop him. He'll come back for me." The authorities assured them that help was on the way. The family gave her water and a blanket to calm her shivering body, but her mind remained in turmoil. Every sound outside sent a chill down her spine, as if Chae Kyong An was lurking nearby, waiting to finish what he started. At 12:52 a.m., the wail of sirens echoed through the forest as police arrived at the homeowner's address. Young Sook, now slightly calmer, ran out to meet them, her voice breaking as she cried, "He tried to kill me." The officers immediately secured the area and began documenting her injuries. They noticed the bruises, dirt, and remnants of duct tape on her wrists and ankles, corroborating her story. Young Sook described the direction Chae Kyong An drove off, and the police issued an alert to all nearby patrols. As they drove her to the hospital for medical attention, Young Sook couldn't shake the fear that her husband might still be nearby, plotting his next move. As Young Sook was rushed to the hospital, police teams scoured the forest and surrounding areas for Chae Kyong An. Based on her detailed account, they tracked his vehicle using surveillance footage from nearby homes and issued a statewide alert for his arrest. At dawn, officers discovered his abandoned vehicle on a dirt road near the Statman Mountains. Inside, they found damning evidence: blood-stained duct tape, strands of hair, and traces of dirt. These confirmed Young Sook's story, but Chae Kyong An himself was nowhere to be found. The search intensified as law enforcement deployed helicopters and tracking dogs. With every passing hour, tension mounted. Would they catch him before he could disappear? Or worse, return to finish what he started? At 7:38 a.m. on October 17th, a hiker spotted a man matching Chae Kyong An's description hiding in the underbrush near the mountain trail. The hiker quickly alerted authorities, and within minutes, officers surrounded the area. Chae Kyong An was captured without incident, though he initially tried to flee. His demeanor was eerily calm as he was handcuffed and placed in the back of a police car. When questioned, he showed no remorse, his expression cold and detached. The officers transported him to the county jail, where he was booked on multiple charges, including attempted murder, kidnapping, and first-degree assault. For Young Sook, the nightmare was finally over, but the emotional scars remained. On October 18, Chae Kyong An appeared in court for his preliminary hearing. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence, including the blood-stained duct tape, the grave site, and Young Sook's harrowing testimony. The judge denied bail, citing the severity of the crimes and the danger Chae Kyong An posed to Young Sook. "He will kill me if he's released," Young Sook had pleaded, her voice trembling in fear. The trial was set to begin, and Young Sook vowed to fight for justice. Despite her physical and emotional pain, she resolved to ensure that Chae Kyong An faced the full weight of the law for his heinous actions. For Young Sook, life after the ordeal was a daily struggle. She suffered from nightmares and anxiety, constantly fearing that Chae Kyong An might somehow return. Therapy sessions helped her cope, but the trauma lingered. She became an advocate for victims of domestic violence, sharing her story to raise awareness about the dangers many endure in silence. Her bravery inspired countless others to seek help and stand up against abuse. Despite the scars, both visible and invisible, Young Sook found strength in her survival. She vowed to live fully for herself and her children, proving that even in the darkest moments, hope and resilience can triumph. Young Sook's story serves as a powerful reminder. No one should endure abuse in silence. Her courage and quick thinking saved her life, but the fight against domestic violence is far from over. As she reflected on her journey, Dong Sook urged others to seek help and trust that there is light beyond the darkness. Even when it feels like there's no way out, you must keep fighting, she said. Her harrowing experience is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, and her survival stands as a beacon of hope for those still trapped in the shadows. Shadow Mysteries, unraveling the horrifying mysteries of crime cases. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch the next thrilling and suspenseful episodes.